Aha! I'm back. Now, I did do this earlier on, but I did notice that OBS, the software that I'm using, has had an update, and the drift in audio has been fixed. And basically I was then, because I'd done it for the old version, the sync wasn't there, and long story short, I'm redoing what I did earlier. So without further ado, what's been happening? I've been away for a little bit, had a few family things to deal with, not all good news, but the good news is I'm back with some things to say about what's hot in terms of kit and what else? Training and other things that will entertain you and inform you in the world of filmmaking. So stick with me for the next 10 minutes or so, and I will let you know what I think has been worth a look on what's exciting. So first off, we've got the GH5 firmware upgrade, yay. Whilst everyone banged on about the 400 megabits, you know what, it's come. That was good. At the moment, I don't see that many people will choose to shoot 400 over 150. I just don't see it. That's great. A lot of people are worried about cards. I bought an ADATA card. V90 works great. Although in testing out all of my cards, I've got a, I haven't got it to hand here, but it's a KingMax 16 gigabyte SDHC class 10 card, and it records the 150 megabits codec just fine. So I don't really know what the crack is really. Some cards like the Lexar 633, I've used loads. 100, 150 just won't do it. Whereas this old card, which is a class 10 SDHC card, works fine. So my point is, don't give up on some of your older cards. They're probably worth slamming into the GH5 and give them a shot. You might be surprised that you might get some usage out of some of your other cards. Yes, so the GH5 firmware upgrade, yes, there's a review. So let's have a quick look over here at the camera store. These guys know their stuff. Jordan's been shooting on the GH5 for several months, and as you can see, he's filming Chris here doing their review, which has taken 6 months to sort out, but I think it's been well worth the wait. It's a comprehensive review, obviously all video, and it's 35 minutes long, so check it out. If you're interested in shooting really nice quality images, the GH5 is certainly a great camera. I'm recording on one right now, so well, obviously, you know, I've got a face for radio, but if you're handsome chaps like these two, then it's going to make the most of you. So yeah, the one thing they didn't mention was about the battery grip, which I've got, and I think that does make a big difference. If you've got halfway decent batteries, then I'm going to stop this, I'm probably fighting it with the audio. If you've got halfway decent batteries, then you can hot swap and obviously do longer form projects or records, so corporate gigs and stuff like that, events. This is going to be a good option. Just point to note that unlike the GH4, especially the third-party battery grips, you can't hot swap. If you're on the grip, you can't just open it and it will flick to the internal battery. No, if you do that, it will turn the camera off and you'll mess up your recording. And I say that because I may have just done it myself and had to pay Aero Quartet, who are excellent, to retrieve my file. But there you go, you live and learn. You can't take anything for granted. If you've used it on an older version of a camera, don't expect it to be the same on the newer one. So yep, there you go. There's a little something for you, a nugget. The upgrade, yes, 400 megabits. It's great, and it doesn't edit on a medium range MacBook Pro, but on a high-end iMac it cuts. I think more interesting will be the Final Cut Pro update sometime before Christmas, version 10.4, where they've introduced the H.265 editing, which should be a boon for GH5 owners, and obviously everyone recording on an iPhone as well, because they all record in H.265 as well. So that's going to be a big deal. What else have we got? Oh yes, that's right. Also in the update, you can record 6K on a GH5, so you will need either native playback in hopefully Premiere or this new version of Final Cut, or transcode and edit, but obviously native editing makes things easier. To boot, the very last thing I was going to mention was they've popped in a 4K codec recording in H.265 at 72 megabits a second. So that will be useful if you are doing longer form projects, or you just want to make the most of the space you've got available. Right, moving on. As I've touched upon earlier, here we are. So Final Cut Pro 10.4 will have this H.265 support. Interestingly, it will also do an awful lot of VR. The hiring of Dashwood, I can't remember what his Christian name is, but Mr. Dashwood, let's call him, has created a whole nother element to Final Cut Pro. It's going to be quite a different package, I think, 10.4, with its capability to edit VR, 360 videos. There's some interesting stuff from Steve Martin, not the comedian, the other one, the guy from Ripple Training. Their latest video is all done in VR, and it seems, yeah, like a real viable prospect. Obviously, once things are easy to edit and produce, then they might become slightly more prolific. How that gets implemented and how clients will find themselves asking for this video, I don't know, but they could be asking for it, and it looks like it'll be easier to do. So hey, sell, sell, sell. Apart from that, I'm not sure if there's anything else that I particularly want to shout about in 10.4, apart from I hope that they improve the overall speed and compatibility with these GH5 files. I'm so selfish, because I've got a GH5, I have to harp on about what's going to make my life easier. Hey ho. So the next thing that caught my attention was the release of the Panasonic's EVA 1, which is a kind of a big brother camera to the GH5 and sits below Vericam. A very capable camera with the same kind of codecs from the GH5, but a completely different beast. Basically something which is kind of somewhere between an FS5 and an FS7. Proper broadcast camera, but small, and can easily be used on a drone or a gimbal. Fantastic review here from Matt Allard from New Shooter. Lots of videos. This chappie in Japan doing fabric printing. Matt's done a fantastic job there. Like it a lot. What can you say? If you're a very talented filmmaker, you can make pretty much whatever camera you use do a good job, because there's a lot more to it than just the camera. But this camera has got something very special about it. It's got this dual native ISO, and it just seems to deliver. It looks really nice. It's not got the autofocus of Canon, of course, but it certainly is something which is worth a look, especially if obviously you do manual focus. Then yeah, I think it looks like a good option, certainly for somebody like me with a GH5 as a big boy camera, so to speak. Probably not going to move anyone who's into their Sony, who's got an existing FS7 or something, but it does look like a very interesting option, certainly one which I think will could scrap with the best of the other cameras out there, like the Blackmagic Ursa Mini Pro, the C200, and obviously the FS7. So yes, do check that out on New Shooter. Something else that caught my attention was Viking Destiny, which is a film written, produced and directed, certainly written and directed by David L.G. Hughes. He is a great guy, an English filmmaker who I interviewed a little while back. If you go and look at my previous videos, there's a nice interview with him all about his movie called Hard Boiled Sweets, a British gangster flick shot on a 5D Mark II. He's come a long way, and this new movie has Terence Stamp and some English actors, and this chappie here called Martin Ford, who is an enormous chap, who's a bodybuilder and actor. I filmed him for Generation Iron 2, now on Netflix. So I found it kind of funny when he was talking about a secret project, and David was talking about a secret project, and lo and behold, I found out it was the same secret project. It's fantastic that you know, when you deal with people and then the little circle is all connected. So yeah, look out for that one. It looks amazing. Lots of gore and well, Vikings really. What do Vikings do? They just pillage, and they probably just cut each other to pieces. Look out for that. Looking good, and I'm super excited for David, because this is such a great jump from what he's done to this. It's looking good. Okay, so here we go. This is something interesting. Not this advert, although actually this advert comes next in a way. So the guys at the Camera Store TV also did this cameras of yesteryear video about the Sony R1, and I have to say I found this really let's turn the sound down on that. The DSC R1, yes, it's like the RX10 but with an APS-C sensor in it and a little flip top screen. I found this interesting quite because this camera came out before the 5D Mark II, and it so could have been the game changer. It could have brought this new DSLR revolution on early and could have made Sony the market leader, where Canon have taken that position as the game-changing company in introducing the 5D Mark II. Well, Sony didn't. They didn't have the video features to it, and I just think, yeah, it seems like they've gone forward and then come right the way back. The RX10 has a 1-inch sensor, and obviously the R1, this 10-year-old, nearly 10-year-old camera, has an APS-C sensor, something which I'm sure if the RX10 Mark V or RX10V, V for video maybe, could possibly Sony pop a little chip in there for us, an APS-C one. That'd be good, wouldn't it? That'd be nice. I think a lot of people would like a fixed lens 24 to 200 APS-C sensor camera. That would be interesting. Yeah. So enjoyed that. That's a really good video. Now, the one thing I've never got into is a crane. And sorry, before I carry on, let's just pause this guy. So this is Daniel Peters, DOP, who's just done this film called Deserted in Paris. There's a few shots of that behind on his computer, but the thing we're interested in is this Crane 2, not the Crane version 2, Crane 2. So yes, it's a gimbal, a handheld gimbal, which you can add bars to if you want, but essentially this thing has a lot more response well, you can interact with the camera better. So with Canon cameras, you've got follow focus potential, you've got start stop with Panasonic and Sony as well. Hopefully the follow focus thing will change and be added to Panasonic when they update their firmware. But it just looks brilliant. It just looks like such a solid piece of kit. It's about £729, he said. Yes, I've bookmarked it in Amazon, and it's my birthday coming up. Anyway, yeah, suffice to say, Daniel Peters does a great job of showing off the gimbal, in particular with the 18-35 lens, which I think a lot of people were struggling with on smaller gimbals. This one in particular has an increased payload from the version 1 and 2, which is about 1.2 kilos, to this new one, the Crane 2, which is now 3.2 kilos. So it will take a fairly big lump of camera and lens. Yes, so do check out, go onto Vimeo and type in Deserted in Paris and watch Daniel's 13-minute film. It's a very nice kind of daytime noir film. It's cool, and there is yeah, sort of hints of John Dahl, the American director, sort of Red Rock West. It just kind of reminded me of all that, which I loved. It's what made me fall in love with cinema and independent cinema. Yay. So that's cool. Moving briskly on, if you're interested in screenwriting, check out Masterclass and the Aaron Sorkin teaches screenwriting. I've been penning some things, writing some synopsis, and just found it invaluable, and every lesson there's a little gem. It's worth every penny. Other training courses coming up by Ollie Kenchington's business. Ollie is the man behind Coro. He's worked with lots of big names, and is well respected, and somebody who I would thoroughly recommend you check out if you are shooting Red or want to learn Final Cut or DaVinci Resolve. He is accredited and has worked with the best, and so very worth checking out. I know there's going to be a lot of stuff happening after the new year. Ollie is going to keep me in touch. Hopefully we might have a Skype or an interview and find out a lot more about that stuff. That's fantastic. Here's a Friday video. This is an upbeat, inspirational video. James Tonkin, great guy, shoots with, I think it's typically one other person. They film for the Rolling Stones and Coldplay. They're currently in Brazil filming Coldplay at the moment. He shoots on, has shot on everything from Sony A7S and all the Sony range, and now shoots on Red. And it shows his workflow and everything, and it's just a really inspirational film, I think, for anyone working at whatever level, because you just see how accessible this kind of editing and workflow is, and also the fact that he's not part of a corporation or a huge production company. He's just very talented and uses the right tools for the job. What more can you say? You have a great story, the right tools, you're on to a winner. Aside from all of that stuff, in my closing, check out Mindhunter on Netflix if you need any inspiration. It's the work of David Fincher. He directed, I think, at least 4 of the episodes, the first 2 and the last 2. There's an awful lot of compositing gone into it. There's a BTS all about it. It's worth checking out. I didn't notice anything when I was watching it. Nothing stood out as looking fake. It's just beautifully made, great acting, and it's just one of the best series on Netflix. It's worth your subscription. Aside from that, I saw Blade Runner 2049, which if you're going to go to the cinema, go and watch that because it was worth seeing on the big screen. It's long. I found it as someone who's interested in film theory and has obviously, learned all about those kind of analytical film theory and all that sort of stuff. In that respect, it does. It's a great one for getting you to think a little bit. It's not all explosions and laser guns and all that jazz. It is, for me, a very deep, meaningful movie, an allegory of modern life, really, of us using the internet and the real versus the virtual. Loads of stuff in there about sex and Oedipus. Look up Oedipal trajectory in movies, is all I can say, and then watch Blade Runner 2049. I think it's a very interesting, deep movie, which I'm sure lots of film students will be pulling apart, no doubt, in the near future. Right, well, that's the kind of month or so I've had, and before I get back down to clearly someone who's screaming, I will bid you adieu and just leave you with how I always sign off. Look after yourselves and those you love, and I will see you again soon. Okay, bye.